Good morning or good evening, depending on where you are internationally. I'm Greg Heffernan, Vice President of Academic Affairs for Residence Medical, and I want to welcome you today to our webinar where we're going to discuss interview mastery with two guests that I have here that'll probably be very articulate in terms of some information about interviewing for the upcoming residency season. First off, we have Dr. Alina Khan. She is a IMG from Pakistan who has exceptional experience as a medical student and graduate, and she will be applying and she will give us some information about some of the concerns when she interviews, what to look for, and she'll be very interested in speaking with our other guest, who is Dr. Romeo Castillo. Dr. Castillo is a program director for family medicine. Probably about a third of IMGs go into primary care when they match, and Dr. Castillo's specialty is probably one of the more important ones for applicants to know, that he, as a program director, looks for certain qualities, what he's looking for in interviews. Dr. Castillo has extensive experience as one of the top program directors in primary care here in California. And he started several residency programs and run them impeccably as a former assistant program director and also faculty. So I want to welcome both of our guests here. And first off, I think what we'll do is talk a little bit to Dr. Khan, and Dr. Khan, you can talk a little bit about some of the concerns or interests you have when you're applying for residency and what some of our viewers might be able to learn from.
Thank you. Hello, everybody, and good morning. The interview season has begun and will continue till January 2024. Many of you probably already have either given a few interviews or have them scheduled already. As doctors applying into residency in the USA, we all can acknowledge how important these interviews are. As of now, the applications have been sent out to the respective programs. The only thing the match applicants can improve on are their interview skills. Program directors get about half an hour to 45 minutes with you to see if you're a good fit for their programs or not. So it is highly important that the candidates are prepared to answer their questions, because interviews are equally as important as your CV and qualifications, if not more. There has been an upward trend in the total number of applicants since the past few years, especially for IMGs, thanks to the new programs that have opened up and the seats that were not there in the past. Just to give you an example, the total number of IMGs that applied to emergency medicine last year was 658. This year it is 1,195, which is almost double, which ultimately also means more competition. Last year, out of 17,382 US and non US international medical graduates, 67.6% of US IMGs got matched and 59.4% of non US IMGs got matched, which in short means that interviews are a highly important part of selection, as 30 to 40% of the IMGs were not matched. I'm going to ask Dr. Castillo to take over and discuss some successful interview tips. Thank you.
A candidate or a resident received an offer or an invitation for interview, that means to say that your applications has been reviewed and you qualified for the criteria set by the program. So the purpose of the interview is to flesh out your application, and this is your opportunity to leave impression. Interview does not guarantee that you will be ranked. It's your performance during the interview. Most of the decisions are made because of your performance in the interview. So, for some tips, plus I will share with you my personal experience with interviewing. So, when you get an invitation, make sure that you uh, visit the websites of the program that you are being offered to have an interview. It's very important that you know the background of the program, the type of curriculum they have, the geography, the locations, the faculty, the type of residents they are that they have in their programs. Those are very important to know, especially when you will be asking questions during the interview. I would suggest that you dress appropriately, like simple business outfit, be natural, like having a natural, engaging conversation. Be comfortable, be honest, cordial, and don't appear rehearsed because program director can really determine whether you are rehearsed or not. So answer the questions coherently, clearly, directly, to the point. Some interviewers will ask you to cite some examples of your experience. Your response should be consistent with the content of your application. I always, teach my faculty as well as the residents who are interviewing that when you are interviewing someone, I am imagining the dynamics, the interaction that's taking place. Is this the same dynamics that the residents will be demonstrating when they are seeing patients or interacting with their colleagues, future co-residents. So I'm looking at them during this interview to see how they are. Are they engaging? Are they able to connect to me? Or that will tell me that if they are able to connect to me or to any interviewers, they most likely will be able to connect to their patients as well, especially for primary care. Primary care is heavily reliant on the type of interaction you will have with your patients because most of the primary care settings are relational patient doctor interaction. So if you are asked also to explain some gaps and concerns about your application, most you as I mean international medical graduate, I notice have a lot of gaps and some failures in USMLE. If you do have those, explain them in a way that demonstrate that there were impactful learning with that experience that made you better. Don't be defensive. Never be defensive. Uh, I guess those are things that I would suggest. And if do I need to give more
Um, uh,
tips?
One of the things that you had mentioned, Romeo, that is really very important that I notice a lot of applicants, whether they're U.S. or foreign trained, is do their homework about the residency program itself. Because one of the key things that I hear from most of the program directors when they're looking at a candidate is how are you a good fit for the residency? How are you, because, and you might explain too, all residencies, when they even are created, and you've created several FUME programs, you have a mission statement, you have, how does the residency fit into the community and its service?
Yeah, when we're looking at we're looking at the residents who are truly interested in the discipline. If you're applying for family medicine, you kind of like have to demonstrate or exude to the program director or the interviewer that you are really interested in that specialty. I understand most of IMGs are applying for multiple types of specialties. Some are applying for family medicine at the same time, applying for internal medicine. But what they're looking at is your ability to be able to be happy or able to keep the training when you are accepted for the training. So it's important that you look at the website because it's required now that all programs should have a website for the future applicants to search and look at the program itself, what the program offers, and what you can offer. Do you fit the programs? The programs like the program's curriculum, will you fit on the location, the geography? This is the place we're looking at. If you're looking for a highly academic program, or you're looking for a rural type or suburban type, or a curriculum that offers a certain type of pathway, you have to know that, and so that the program director can sense whether you really are fit or not. And this is also important that when you get interviewed and demonstrate to the interviewer that you are really searching, you are really wanting to understand the program and learn the program, that might be a plus.
Interviewing candidates, are there certain things that they need to keep in mind that they don't do? like
Yeah.
certain things that are might create a red flag?
All right. The first, whether the interviewing seasons have different format nowadays. It could be Zoom, it could be person to person interview. But I would really encourage everyone that if you applied for interview and get offered, you have to be prompt. You have to not to be late at all. One of the reasons why the program director are kind of like turned off because applicants are late, and if they're doing Zoom meeting, they're not familiar with technology. It actually delays the interview process. So also during the interview, don't portray trying to portray a certain type of personality when you are not. Be natural. If you're naturally shy, learn how to smile. Be attentive, and don't be circumlocutory. Just use simple, appropriate vocabulary. So don't use false information in your resume. Not being honest, we can make a determination of that though. Just be you, and it's also a mistake not to ask questions during interview. You have to prepare some questions that demonstrate your interest about the program.
Conversation too, right? It's conversational. It's not an interrogation
No,
when
not at
you're
all.
there too. Now, in many interview situations, they're not only on a virtual with you, but they may have residents actually who are also on, or an assistant program director, or some attendings. So, is there something to keep in mind when you have multiple people that are interviewing you? And it's all mostly virtual these days, as you know.
Mhm. Right. Well, the interview can be. It depends on the program. Some program do a panel interview where it consists of several people interviewing the program director, even the coordinator, residents, some faculty, and the other programs utilize a one-to-one interview. Regardless of the format, this concept is the same. You really have to leave a mark. You really have to be remembered by the interviewer. And you will know when you are offered an interview. You can ask or email your program coordinator to ask what format will be the interview, what kind of format will they be utilizing, whether it's a panel or it's a one-to-one. Almost all program nationwide really have residents interviewing, because remember, these residents are have a great input with the results of the interview, because they will be the ones who will be working with you for the next 3 to 4 years of your training. They're looking at, are these the type of people that I'll be able to connect and work with or supervise, because they will be your seniors. So they have a great input when during the ranking. They have, especially on my program, I really rely on the input of the residents, because residents interviewees behave differently when they're being interviewed by program director or the faculty. But they behave differently when they're being interviewed by residents, and that has been noticed time and time and again.
Residents are going to become faculty for the lower PGY ones. If there are PGY twos and threes, oftentimes they become pseudo faculty or support in the GME program. Dr. Khan, do you have some points that you might want to ask Dr. Castillo just from an interviewee's perspective? I guess not.
Okay,
So,
just to add, Greg, about what you were saying about the residents being a senior, they will be the one who interviewed you. Of course, they will be your seniors. They
right.
will act as your almost, if they're third year, we consider them as junior faculty. The way they are, the role that they play during the residency as a senior, they act as junior faculty. They will be your seniors, but although they are your core resident, they are your seniors, and
Right.
hopefully some of them become really a real faculty in the future within the program.
Are there, I'm sure there's probably some qualities of future chief residents in your programs that you notice when you interview them right at the beginning. There's a
Right.
certain quality. What would that be, for example?
Well, in the program, there's so many questions they can be asked to make a determination that this candidate is a potential, leader or a chief. We're looking at the applications, their history of leadership, and the way they conduct themselves during the interview can give a sense of, oh, this resident could be a leader. So in general, when I'm interviewing, I'm looking at, and most programs do, they're looking at the application holistically. They're looking for someone who has so many qualities that will bring something in the program. Someone will become an asset to the program. In general, all resident program director, they're looking for someone who is teachable, someone who's trainable, someone who's receptive to feedback and evaluation, able to manage conflict or maturity, someone who understands what entails during the training because of the long hours and unpredictable circumstances during the training. Are they flexible? Are they adaptable? How you demonstrate it? If you look at the personal statements and their application in general, you will see a pattern of certain type of attributes that will tell you that this resident really truly have this type of attributes that might be that make them become successful during the training. So honesty is very important. Consistency. Whatever you wrote on your application, you must be able to actually elicit that during the interview. One thing in California that I always tell the applicants, some of them don't, if they are applying in California, never, never put on your applications any indications that you did practice of medicine in California without a license. And that's, you might be a very strong and good candidate, but if you wrote something in your application that denotes practice of medicine, that will might land you for any the program director might deny you any ranking at all because it's a risk, especially in the board of California. Also, what we're looking at is this applicant able to perform in a team setting, and someone who is actually ready day one, ready for residency training in day one. I always tell residents, I don't want to be having a resident that I gonna hold his hands or her hands, walk them through. I want someone who is ready in day one. Anything else that you would like to ask, or if there's any question or some comments?
If we have some questions to send in, we're happy to take those as well. And you're welcome to send those in to us here if you're participating in the webinar. I know, Dr. Castillo, that you often consider the applicant in a patient setting while you're interviewing them. That's something I think very important for them to keep in mind as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. When you interview a resident, this is an opportunity for the interviewee to demonstrate that a certain personality that will actually show that they are a good primary doctors that will be able to connect to their patients. And in the type of patients we have in United States are, they're very privileged patients in a way. Communication is so important. The way they communicate with their patients, the way they connect with their patient, engage with the patients. And a lot of international graduates, I noticed this is one of the areas that we have to struggle with. They're bringing in the culture that they have back in their countries, and then exposed to the type of clientele we have here in the United States. And communication is one of the major issues. So I would really suggest when you start being interviewed, engage, engage to as if you already know the interviewers, as if you already know them, as if you already have connected with them. Be engaging, cordial, just spontaneous, just be honest, and don't act as if you are rehearsed. Some of the interviewees that I noticed, they memorize certain type of response because they research in the internet about what's being asked, and program director can ask anything under the sun. The most common questions they ask, like, what's your weaknesses, what's your strength? It could be the question can be tailored in another way. I usually ask, what challenges would you bring, or what challenges would be you anticipating when you are in the program? Or I would, instead of saying, what's your strength, what can you bring into the program? Those are the same concept. So the questions to be asked could be tailored in different ways, but you should understand the concept. They're looking for someone who will bring something in the program, and if they're ready to start the residency program. What what one thing that the program director wouldn't like to have is someone who's going to give them a headache because they're not ready. They are not. They have no understanding of what a U.S. setting would be, because U.S. setting is totally different from other setting outside the country. So you should understand that it's also important if you have some U.S. experience with regards to the clinical experience. Most of the applicants I notice have some observership, some kind of volunteering that might be also helpful to demonstrate that they understand, or they have some understanding of how primary care is in United States. Anything else? Any question?
Few tips is that Residence Medical does offer extensive interview prep, and I highly recommend it both for U.S. grads and foreign grads. I have so many times interviewed graduate medical students or students that are applying for residency that really could have benefited by interview prep. Some of these kids have had very high scores, many interviews, and did match in. And if their interview skills are not really good and they're not able to eloquently and clearly show how they are a good fit in a program, they just don't get ranked. And I see this over and over. So I really want to invite anybody who is participating in this particular webinar to look into the interview prep that we have, because it is literally one of the most valuable services that I think we offer for people applying. Dr. Castillo, we've got some questions for you. So I want
Sure.
to start off with one here. This one is from Mr. Afomi. And the question is, if you did not pass step 3, okay, and you're retaking it, will that affect you getting an interview if you're still trying to retake it during that time?
Mhm. In general, step three is not required to get into the program. Step one, step two, and CS nowadays, because of the COVID, is not. They don't have CS scores. Uh, they we all programs, they're looking for someone who has passed step one and step two. And step three can be taken during PGY1. Most of the program have stipulations. You have to pass step three when you are about to become second year. Within 12 months of training, you have to pass a step three. But necessarily important, if you fail step out three, and you have higher grades in step one and step two, that might also be helpful, even if you fail. Sometimes, if you fail, as I mentioned earlier, you really have to have a good explanation, not being defensive. Explaining why do you feel that you didn't pass a step three. So the answer is we don't require step three.
Tackle complex case discussions during an interview. Sometimes there may be your question about a particular case. How do you handle that as an interviewee?
I'm not sure what complex case are we
So, in other
referring.
words, sometimes there may be clinical questions. I know when you interview, you will sometimes offer a clinical question
Mhm,
to
mhm.
an applicant. Maybe you can share that and maybe the strategy how to respond.
Yeah, certain clinical basic questions that we expect the PGI one would know, because the reason for training is to make them train in clinical settings. I don't expect them to be very well versed with clinics, but what I would like to understand is their basic medical knowledge. Do they understand certain type of medications in diabetes or hypertension? Just very basic. I don't really ask a complex question, because that's the role of the training to train them in a complex setting. But at least they have the foundational medical knowledge that will help them really grow during the training. That
Dr. Syed here. What is more important, U.S. clinical experience or step 3? Or would you say both?
Yeah, if in general, if we're looking at the application, we're looking at holistically. what do you have that you can bring in? I have some applicants who did poorly in certain areas, like they don't have any research background, but they perform so well in their step one or step two. Some are not didn't have a good performance in step one and step two, but they have a lot of missionary works. They have so much thing to bring in. They have experience, U.S. experience or other experience that tells me that this resident has other valuable attributes that may help him become successful during the training. So I have a residents who failed once or twice in a steps, but I'm looking at the application holistically. But they can bring in something. They have certain attributes like attitudes or certain attitudes that will make them very teachable, make them successful. So most of the program are looking for holistically with the residence application. But some you have to understand certain program really rely heavily on USMLE scores. They're looking especially like radiology and I think radiology, pathology, they're looking for someone who has a very high score. But in primary care, we're looking at someone has the balance. Well and good if you have a very high grade, but high grade doesn't really denote that you'll be a good resident. You're looking for so many attributes like emotional intelligence. These residents are they able to survive the rigorous training? Even if you have a very high grade and if you don't have the emotional intelligence, you might not be successful in the program. It's the readiness, it's the attitude, it's the balance. You should have all those things, and you should be able to demonstrate that during the interview, that you have all those necessary attributes that will make you successful during the residency training program.
From Javira, is publication something that's really important? If you don't have a lot of publication, I think with primary care, maybe it might not be as emphasized, but what is your feeling about
Right.
publication?
If you are applying, and if you're, that's why it's important to look at the website of the program you're applying. Is the program really heavily reliant on academic? Look at their aims. Every program has aims that are required by ACGME. Aims will make you will make you understand what kind of residents they're looking for. If they're looking for residents like academic settings, they look at your publication. But in general, all applicants, especially in primary care, and all other programs in general, you are required to have scholarly works in family medicine, in internal medicine, everyone. You will not graduate without having to produce a certain type of study or certain type of scholarly work, including publication, research project, and QI project. QI is required for all family medicine. So if you have those background, well and good if you do. But some program, like in our program, especially primary care, those are like only one areas. We don't really decide based on how much publication they have completed. We don't. We're looking again at holistically. Well and good if you have it. That means to say, if you get accepted in a program, you have an understanding of how publication is being done or how research. We want the applicants to understand that how research takes place. Why is it important in the primary care education? But we don't solely rely. We don't solely make decisions based on those. Those are good things to have, but not really the basis for you to be ranked or not.
Great. Another question here from Mark. In case of a failed USMLE exam, what would be the best way to compensate and still get in a residency program?
I
Um,
know. I know. Failure is recorded. It's a living document. You cannot change that anymore. Well, if you fail several times, it's gonna make it more difficult. Most programs has a set criteria for them to invite an applicant for interview. So you're looking at USMLE scores and how many times do they fail, or how many years from graduations, from the time of the applications. So if you fail, like it depends on how many times. If you fail multiple times, it's gonna get more difficult. So you have to have other extraordinary abilities or skills that you can to compensate for that. Any other? Is that did I answer your question?
There was a question here also about an initial question when you're being interviewed. Sometimes the programs will say, "Tell me a little bit about yourself."
Mhm.
So, if that is like a centralized question, what are some of your advice to kind of keep that centered, not too long, but focused on what they're really looking for?
Yeah, they're looking for someone, as I said earlier, they're looking for someone who's able to be who's a fit in their so fit in their residency and their program. That's why you have to understand what the program is looking for. So when they ask you what tell me something about yourself, tell something that might fit in the program. If you the program is academic, then tell them that I have highlight something that tells about the academic needs of the program. If you're looking for a rural, you cannot be saying I'm doing a lot of research, I'm doing all of this, but it doesn't fit the rural setting. If you're looking for a community type of medicine, like us, we are community medicine affiliated with the university. We're looking for someone who's balanced because community medicine. We're looking for someone who's going to practice primary care was the way they they engage themselves during the interview is very important because most primary care are relational patient doctor relationship is what we're looking for. Are they able to really build their practice, connect with the community? Those are we're looking for. So if you're being asked, look at what the program is looking for, then answer based on what do you think your response will fit on the program's need.
Statistics for the entering P, about 3,800 IMGs matched into internal medicine and about 1,300 into family medicine out of
Mhm.
about 7,000, 7,500 that matched in.
Right.
So that's, those two specialties are the highest, as we kind of mentioned before. They're
Mhm.
not that different, actually, if people look at for the MDs and the DOs, too. They're all in the 3,000, 1,300s for family
Right.
medicine. So the question was this, is that if you have LORs for family medicine and internal medicine, which does it matter if you have, let's say, one for family and two for internal medicine?
Right. Most of the LORs, the applicants, waive their right to see the applications. Okay. So some residents, when they ask for a letter of recommendation, and I noticed that they're very specific. Usually, the author of the recommendation will ask, "What specialty would you be, applying?" So they write it on their on their letter of recommendation. Some are neutral; they don't say anything except we're recommending this residence to your program. It doesn't say anything though. So I would suggest if you truly know your specialty that you really would like to apply, then ask the author to write specifically that you're interested in internal medicine, you're interested in family. If not, don't really be specific because some of the programs it's just a matter of preference of certain program directors that they really would like someone who truly like the discipline that they're applying for. So, but in general, but just be honest. If it so happens that the program director noticed that you have multiple specialty that you're applying, just be honest. Like for myself, I understand the difficulty, the hardship that the international medical graduate has to undergo through compared to U.S. graduate. That I understand that the chances of them competing with in general are is difficult. It's a very stiff curve. So I understand that there's always a tendency to apply, and most of the program director realize that. That's why in the signaling, it was also mentioned that you can signal different specialty if you're applying for family medicine or internal medicine. But nevertheless, when you get interviewed, communicate to them that you are interested in that program. No matter what, that if you get matched in that program, you'll be a good performer.
Program directors this year who have been told that they had an applicant that was interested in the program, but then when they went and checked, they had not signaled them and they just didn't know. So that seemed to be something that they need to do.
Well, the signaling is actually during the applications to make to have them higher chances of being invited for interview. There are limited number of signals, and it's actually on the supplemental application per ERAS. The signaling most of the time, the signalings I notice are done by U.S. graduate because it's limited. I think for family medicine you can only have five signals. Signal will if the a program director that you are signaling the program, they will tell it will tell that you are interested on the program. That might land you an interview, but it's not a guarantee because again they're looking for the application holistically. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay, it looks like there are no other questions. Professor Greg, is there any other question? But anyways, just to give you the little insight of the process. January, most of the program are done with their interviewing processes. Usually February 1st, they're going to start ranking and submitting their ranks, but not be certified. Once they completed the final decision, whom to rank, it will be certified February 28th. So once certified, it's final that the program will finalize the list of their residents will be ranked in their programs. Any other questions? Any other?
We wanted to, Dr. Khan, maybe you could ask a couple of questions of Dr. Castillo from your perspective as an interviewee.
Yes. Dr. Castillo, can you hear me? Are you able to hear me? All right. Well, I think I'll just answer a few questions. I think we've lost Dr. Castillo. Um, People are asking if they should bring in their personal stories into the interview. I would like to say from personal experience, try to keep it as precise as possible. Do not answer questions that were not asked from you. Um, Whatever is asked, just be precise. Like, for example, if they ask you, um, basically, like, tell us three strengths or three weaknesses about you. So your answer should start with, here are my three weaknesses or here are my three strengths, and just don't go on a long journey because the program director is limited on time. Another question is basically the most dreaded question when the program director asks us, tell us about yourself. So what do you say? Of course, they have your CV, they have all your research publications, all your scores. So when they ask you, tell us about yourself, mention things that are not part of the CV that describe more of your personality and who you are apart from your CV. I guess that's about it. I know it's a long discussion that can go on for hours, but unfortunately, we are limited on time. If you want to book one on one sessions with program directors for interview preparation or have any other questions regarding tutoring, ERAS application editing, um, or even placement assistance, you can visit our website and book a free consultation with one of our counselors. I would like to thank Professor Heffernan and Dr. Castillo for a detailed explanation and help with explaining how interview preparation is important. I hope this webinar helped the doctors understand the importance of interview preparation and that we're all here to help you. So do reach out if you have any questions. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you.